Hello, welcome to the Doggy Style Podcast. Join me, your host, Al Berg, and my dog Lola on our adventures in Long Island and New York City. I'll be discussing many topics that you won't hear anywhere else. I talk about key principles for success, happiness, persuasion, dogs, my life. I share some secrets and many other interesting topics. Come on in, put your seat back, kick off them shoes, but not if you're driving. Take a deep breath and relax, get rid of that stress and enjoy the ride. Hello everybody, Al Berg here, and this is episode 74 of the Doggy Style Podcast. No Lola today. I'm in Penn Station walking up the stairs, and it's going to be a short one today. I'll tell you why in a second. It's a beautiful day in New York City. Boy, I get out of breath just walking up the stairs. So, my vacation is officially over, I guess, as I step outside of Penn Station. I was off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Wednesday was the 4th of July. And, of course, I did work the whole day. Had to work on a holiday, and there's no compensation for that. So, a little frustrating, but what are you going to do? I get paid to do that. And I had a deadline that was Tuesday night. So I'm going into work today, not sure what the status is of the work I left on Wednesday night. So the other thing I did during my vacation, some vacation sounding bad, was I spent 15 hours driving, 7.5 up to Buffalo and 7.5 back to pick up my son from university. I'm not bad at driving, but it's just a long drive. We listened to a few podcasts on the way, but it could have been maybe better planned. Maybe I need to plan the trip next time and have 7 hours worth of activities as I look up and see a bus heading towards me. So I'm on 8th Avenue and 34th Street, crossing it right now. And in Buffalo, there was a bookstore we went into, and it was a little disappointing. I'm a big fan of bookstores, but this one just didn't have anything I liked. There was one book. So, my boss is in town this week. Hooray! Sorry. So he's in town, I guess, for the week. I'm not crazy about that, but we'll see how it goes. He seems to be a little nicer in person than over the phone. It could be he's having problems at home. And when he comes here, he just doesn't have those problems, or who knows what. Maybe he could pick up my body language better. So I'm not sure if I should be. And part of me just wishes he wouldn't come. I don't really want to see him or go out for drinks with him or have lunch with him. But I guess I'm gonna put on my best smiley face and happy to see him. So just some of the things is because he's in town, I'm not going to walk. My usual walk was usually an hour. So this is going to be a trimmed down podcast. So I'm just going to talk during the actual walk. um, which would just be my normal walk, which I'm going to say is about 15 minutes. Another thing is that there might be things I do now that I'll feel uncomfortable doing in front of him. I'm not sure what that would be. I'll say maybe I'm in the bathroom too long, or could be anything. So I'm going to watch my behavior a little bit more since he works in another state and he'll be experiencing my bad behavior or good behavior firsthand. I guess it depends how you look at it. It's funny, there's a homeless woman, says she's 70 years old. And I'm going to say, being homeless is treating her well. She looks pretty good for a 70-year-old. There was just the hunk of people who are illegally crossing the street. Um, so I've been in the market for a knapsack briefcase. I got to keep an eye out for it. I almost bought one over the weekend. I'm looking for something that could be a knapsack, not too heavy, nice wheels, those that aren't going to crack or can go a long way. Just it seemed like it would be a way to keep a little cooler in the city. Um, Having the knapsack would allow me to get the weight off my shoulders and not sweat as much. So one thing so my boss is in, and I did have a little fear that he could come in and fire me. It's not impossible, so I'm a little afraid. Um, I guess the best way to think about it, if that happens, it happens and there's little I can do about it. What I could do is make sure I have a good resume and ability to get a job as soon as possible. So I'm going to try not to worry about it, but we'll see. So the fact that I'm even thinking about it shows me how bad of a boss he is in some way. So one thing happened to me this weekend is that I fixed something but broke something else on my code. So one of the things I had is I had a feature where you could put that number of items on any list if you put the word hashtag CNT in the heading of the list. But the code also handled if there were 0 items in a way, which at first I liked. So if you didn't have any items in your list, the actual number substitution would delete, so you wouldn't even see a 0. So one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to keep a list of high priority items. And I didn't want to see them. I wanted to know that there were none in there. So it was just hard to tell. So what I did was I just made a change to the code, and that change to the code broke something else, which happens. That's part of being a coder or programmer. You just fix one thing and break something else. So what I broke is, it used to be that if an item in a list had no sublists, you wouldn't be able to click it as a link. You could tell right away. And the fix I did undid that, so now you can't tell if something has items in it or not. And I kind of like that feature, and so I'm gonna have to somehow put it back. So I was working on my opening and closing this weekend, or this vacation, and I have to say it was fun. I did the voiceover on the opening, and it needs improvement, and I just got to keep working on it. I think even now I need some improvement on how I speak and how fast I speak. I could see walking up those steps and talking was tough. So I I should wait, walk up the stairs from Penn Station, catch my breath a little bit, and then start the podcast because I could see I'm like, I'm gasping for air. It's hard to talk and walk at the same time if you're walking upstairs, that is. Yeah, so it was kind of fun doing it. I think it came out. It wasn't great, but for a person who has no training in this and no skills, I thought it came out pretty good. I was pretty impressed with it, and I would like you to chime in. You'll see it at the beginning of this podcast. I know I got some comments about uh, one thing that I'm going to remove. Is also I'm kind of mumbling in it, and I was talking at a normal voice, and then in the middle I decided to make like a comment about what I said. So I'm going to pull that out. And so it's a work in progress. I think like anything in life, and I've learned this from what's called A/B testing, is that you keep working on something until you get it right, and you change it a little. And one of the nice things you can do with Microsoft Movie Maker, I'm not sure they supply it anymore. So one of the things you can do with this Microsoft Movie Maker is you can, save what you started with, create the output, and then, change something and save it as a new output. So just in terms of exercise, I still haven't gone to the gym. I just have lost that habit. Not sure why. But I did cut some bushes, and cutting one of the bushes took 2 hours one day. And then there's a problem with bushes. The way they grow, they get very unwieldy or very ugly looking and blocking things. And then what happens is you try to cut it, and everything below the top of the flowers is just the branches, and it looks like a stalk of dead wood. So I just did a little bit. I mowed my lawn also. I think I gave this vacation. I also gave myself a haircut. One of the things I've been doing for over 20 years is cutting my own hair. And it all started like I never liked the haircuts I got. And I think once I had a stray hair that grew faster than the other hair, and I cut it. And I liked the way it came out. And then I thought, and this is just a general rule, if you can't break something that can't be fixed by a professional, then give it a try. So I thought that my hair could be fixed by a barber. Like if I really messed it up, I thought that a barber could fix it up. And so I started trying. I did it, and the first time I thought it came out pretty good. And 20 years later, it might even be longer, I do it myself. I save whatever, $20 each time. It does help that I do have very thin hair, so cutting it is not a it's not a hard thing to do, but it takes a little trial and error. I do the whole back, sides, front, and now it's just since I've become good at it, I could do it without a problem. I also loaded a number of videos. One of the things I'm trying to do is load more videos than I create, or more podcasts than I create. It's just a technique I've learned from trying to lose weight, which isn't working very well, as my diet kind of has blown up. I'm thinking about starting it again, maybe thinking about what went wrong. Very hard on vacation time or breaking the habits. It really is. I mean, I've tried. I got close and then just lost it in this last round. Doesn't mean I'm done. I could keep pushing, but we'll see. This is episode 74, part 2. It's about 7:40 in the evening. I'm leaving work now. And it was an interesting day. So my boss came in. He didn't get in till 10 o'clock, so I could have walked this morning, but probably better that I didn't. I would have been all sweaty. And so I had a decent day with him. I didn't get laid off. I didn't get fired. But I did find out today that they are going forward with, seems to be reissuing the incorrect report that I generated about a month ago. And they're also, they found another issue in another one. So I've got a lot of stuff to do. And the one thing that I'm going to try to do is the fact that the boss is in. I want to try and get in before him and leave after he leaves, as opposed to what I would typically do. So we'll see how that goes. He wasn't that bad. He's much nicer in person. I don't know what it is. I went down to lunch with him. I didn't have the greatest chat. He's not the most personable guy, but he's likable. They're kind of a guy's type of guy. Into sports, into football, really into football. Yeah, so just missed the light. Okay, it's okay. So I just was doing a lot of different stuff today. I don't know if anything stood out, but one thing I did do was I had some notes on my desk. I got to be careful of resume and new job. You know, who knows? Maybe it's better. So in some ways, he does need me. I mean, we do have a lot of deadlines coming up, and they will have a lot of difficulties making them without me. So I don't see any way they could fire me, so which is good. But I really still need to. I still need to get the resume together, look a little bit, see what's out there. Yeah, so one of the things I started doing, or I'm going to try to continue, is when my dog wants to go outside. Now, I might have mentioned this earlier this morning, I don't remember. But when my dog wants to go outside, I'll open the door and have some dumbbells and do some dumbbell lifts while I'm waiting for her to come back in. Or maybe do push-ups, sit-ups, whatever. So that is interesting. And again, I apologize if I've mentioned this before, I don't really recall. It's what happens when you get old. Your memory just fades away. So in terms of Lola, and this is the Doggy Style podcast, so I should always talk about Lola. There's a dog she really loves. It's the weirdest thing. There's this one black lab in my neighborhood named Rocky. And when Lola sees or smells Rocky, she goes crazy. She's just so in love with him. As a matter of fact, she doesn't bark normally, but when she sees him, she'll bark at him. So the other day, and this has happened a few times now, is the son of the guy who owns the dog was walking the dog, and he actually goes across the street to not have an interaction with me and the dog. So I just thought, it's pretty weird. It makes me feel bad because I know how much she loves him. So one thing that happened was yesterday, I was walking with a neighbor and his dog, and he's having a lot of trouble with his dog. His dog is peeing in the house. It doesn't want to walk when you walk it. Just stops. They're concerned about it drooling. So I was trying to see if I could walk, and it seemed to be doing okay with me. He's got a bad leash, and so one thing that happened was that I was trying to pull the dog, and the dog came out of its harness and basically started to running around. I was horrified because had the dog gotten, say, hit by a car, I would have felt so responsible. So thank God nothing happened. And then later the dog came out of the leash again. Um, yeah, so I felt a little uncomfortable. I don't know how we would feel about trying to train dogs. It's one thing to train your own dog. It's another thing trying to train somebody else's dog. So I guess if for the first time it wasn't that bad. I didn't have my clicker or treats or anything. So I don't know. An idea to train other dogs, but it could come up with a downside getting bit. And I am still a little afraid of dogs. So one of the things that happened is I missed the light again. I responded to a tweet from Tom Arnold, and I'll post the tweet down in the notes. And I wound up getting about 400 likes, whole number of retweets. So it's one thing I've seen is that if you can do a witty tweet, you can get a lot of a lot of likes and follows. And then also recently I just saw that Sacha Baron Cohen, who's also known as Borat, Ali G, and Bruno, he seems to be has a new project coming out. It might be anti-Trump, I don't know, but it seems interesting. I do like the guy, and we'll see what happens with that. So one of the things I've realized that I need to do is um, when I want to practice, I have to record the radio and then practice imitating how they talk, because I can see even right now it's very hard to do the right inflections when I say things. It's difficult. I really need some work with the whole thing. So we'll see what goes on, what happens with that. But it seems that it just does take a lot of practice, being more aware of what has to be done. I can also practice from books on tape, where I just find a book on tape and then practice copying the way the book is read. So also with the podcasting, I'm wondering if I'm doing the right thing, because I've been trying to catch up with loading up the podcast, which does take up an amount of time. So it takes some time to do this. And so really all I really need to do is load up one more than I create. But then I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. Maybe it would be better to just create better podcasts and see if I can get people to listen to it, and then from there to see. Because my podcasts aren't great, I know, compared to what other people can do. Hopefully I give out some wisdom, but for the most part, okay, check them out, 21. So, in terms of the job search, I just don't want to do it. There's just a lot of problems with it. Fear, it's boring, it's hard, but there is something to be said about it. And then also in terms of decluttering, I just haven't been doing enough. And then also I was supposed to work on a prioritized list of goals. Wait, this is a long train. Oh well. But anyway, so that's all I have for today. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. The 4 rules I try to live by are: number 1, life is short and goes by extremely fast. 2, if you do what you've done, you get what you've got. 3, step outside your comfort zone. 4, there is only now, so live in the present. Please subscribe and like this video because it helps me and hopefully helps you. Please leave a comment, as I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on Twitter and Periscope at Alec Berg. To get more information, check out t2do.com. That's 4 characters. The letter T as in Tom, the number 2, D-O, that's t2do.com. See you until next time.